Hello and welcome. I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to talk about this book right here, Witch in Darkness by Kelly-Ann Maddox. Many of you who are in the witchy or tarot community may know her from here on YouTube. I first came across Kelly-Ann through searching for videos on learning tarot, like way back in the beginning of my tarot journey, and I stumbled upon her beginner's course on tarot playlist. And I believe it's still up, and I just kept following her channel ever since. It feels so incredible to be holding this book because it sort of feels like a physical manifestation of this journey with her to this day as an audience. So this book is all about the dark times one may encounter, and she defines what darkness is for her. And I believe that's discussed somewhere in the introduction. And I found that to be quite interesting, actually. Oh, and by the way, as a random side note, as I was reading this book, I found that I was reading it in Kelly-Ann's voice, like as if she were the one narrating it, which I later found out that there is an audiobook version of this, in case anyone is interested in that. But yeah, I just found it really amusing because it's the first time it's ever happened to me, and I guess it just speaks to how the tone throughout this whole book is very much like her speaking to the reader. It's gentle yet firm, and it's just very much like the teacher and guide that she is. Anyways, I'm getting off topic here. So I was talking about what this book is about, the dark times, and there are many circumstances in which one can experience the darkness. So here's a look at some of what you can expect if you're curious. I just also wanted to show this page and say that this book was written during some of her own darkest times. She talks about this in the introduction as well. So first, you've got an introduction, and I feel like the introduction is very much about the darkness, her connection to witching in darkness, and how she hopes this book can help the reader. And I want to read you a little quote from the intro, and that is on page 4 over here. So it might be a little small on the screen, and I'm just going to read like one sentence basically, but it starts right here, and it says, "Witchcraft is for every single fight, failure, and fear. I don't use witchcraft to escape pain. I use it to face and process pain." And I just thought that those were some very powerful words, and so I just wanted to share that. Alright, so we're back to the table of contents here. So after the introduction, you've got chapters like Sacred Imperfection, Prepping for Darkness, Things Look Different in the Dark, Witching Through Extremes, and Make It Low Maintenance. To me, it's kind of like a little primer to witchcraft, Witch 101 if you will, but keeping it very real. So I know a lot of us have perhaps seen other people's picture perfect scenes of, I don't know, like say doing witchcraft in these beautiful gowns with flower wreaths, flower wreaths, I don't know, like dancing in a circle in a forest or something like that. Or maybe it's like, pictures of these immaculate apothecaries with all the herbs and tools. But Kelly-Ann brings things to a much more relatable, down to earth kind of doing witchcraft in this part one. So, especially if we're talking about being in darker situations. So, times when one might be in, say, mentally and emotionally vulnerable states, right? How do you witch through those times? So here I feel like she offers her insight and support on, what it might mean to, as the book quite literally states, witch in darkness. So, yeah, that's part one. And then we've got part two, which is where you'll get the number of get a number of different dark scenarios. And I guess I'll just let you read through that on the screen. If I can get it to, there we go. Focus a little bit better there. So these are some of the part two chapters, and there's more. So there are some more here, and part three as well. So I'll talk about part three in a bit. And perhaps not all of the chapters might be of interest to everyone, especially if it's not something you're personally going through. So one of the nice things about this book is that you don't have to read it cover to cover, although I did, but you can very well just pick and choose the chapters that interest you and read just that. And you won't lose any kind of continuity of the content by skipping through the chapters. At least I feel like for part two here, and for quite a lot of the book actually. So each chapter here in part two consists of a mix of talking about the topic itself, and you've got, some spells, rituals, or intentions that the reader can perform to help them with, said topic. And then there's a tarot spread that goes along with each chapter in part two, as well as a page called Write It, which are like journal prompts. And then followed by Speak It, which are some words of affirmation. So I love the inclusion of tarot spreads because I think it really connects back that card slinger part of Kelly-Ann to this book. And I believe the overall part 1, 2, 3 structure of this book is similar to her previous book, Rebel Witch, as well. But the inclusion of tarot spreads is something new she's added to this book. I will say that I was pleasantly surprised by reading some of the other chapters, some that I didn't think would speak to me as much. So for example, chapter 14 is Dark Artist, and I feel like it's helped me rediscover parts of myself that I forgot about and had lost somewhere along the way. So as a kid, I loved to draw, and as a teen or young adult, I submerged myself in music. And now, as an adult, I barely do any of these things. So I feel like I had lost my connection to that more creative side, my connection to the arts in the midst of adulting during the dark times in my adulthood. And I'm not sure if that chapter was aimed towards artists or creatives, but reading that chapter kind of reminded me of my past self, the artist in me that I loved being, the version of me that I like. So, this was certainly a chapter where at first glance didn't seem like it was meant for me, but after reading it, it certainly spoke to me in a very deep way. Another quote that I really liked, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, again, I don't know if you can read it because the text is kind of tiny here on the screen, but here it says, "Your mental well-being is a sacred journey. Resources and hope may sometimes be scarce. Your determination to be an ally to yourself is invaluable." And again, like, I just feel like those are some really powerful and insightful words. So that's something I'm going to, I might put that in my journal as a quote. So I think that this book is a treasure trove of ideas for spells, rituals, and intentions. I think it's a very practical and real toolkit for those times when one has nothing else to lean on. And of course, it's stated very clearly that witchcraft is not meant to replace, say, professional help or treatment. It's probably somewhere in the very beginning of the book. What I wanted to say, though, is that I love all the alternative ways of doing things that are offered throughout the book. So one of the examples that I remember is about storm water. And so you don't always have a storm, right? Or for whatever reason, let's say you're not able to go and collect water from a storm. Well, guess what? How about playing songs with, like, say, the sound of storm beside some water, and to infuse that property into that water, right? So I feel like it's such a simple but genius idea, and it makes storm water so much more accessible. So yeah, I really enjoyed all of these little ideas and inspirations throughout the book. One of the chapters I was really looking forward to was the chapter on grief. And after reading it, for some reason, it felt much shorter than some of the other chapters prior. Although objectively, I did look at the number of pages, and it actually contains a similar amount of pages as the other chapters. So maybe I just didn't want the chapter to end, or maybe it says something about my heart space currently. I don't really know, but yeah, this is just meant to be an observation of myself reading this book. Personally, there are some rituals in here that I know won't work for me, not because it's not doable, but I think it's just not quite my style at the moment, and that's okay. There's a page at the end of part 2 that reminds the reader to take what works for them and leave the rest. And this message is reiterated throughout the different chapters as well. And I think, just because it's not for me doesn't mean it's not for someone else, right? We all have our different needs at different times or circumstances. And I do appreciate all the different ideas presented. I think that having a variety of ideas to work with is never a bad thing, especially when it comes to witchcraft and customizing things to work for the reader. And finally, part 3, I guess I'll just quickly show you the table of contents again, although I think I kind of showed it a little bit earlier. There you go, that's part 3. It's a shorter section, but basically this is like an FAQ section. It contains some questions that Kelly-Ann gets asked more frequently, and there are so many good ones. I think this one's pretty good. Again, sorry, the text is kind of small on the screen, and I'll read it out. So up here, there's one that says, "My situation is confusing and my emotions are erratic. How do I adopt the right mindset to do witchcraft?" So I think that one's pretty good. There's another one here that says, "Is it okay to use magic for my own problems when there are big issues going on in the world?" And I'll show you a couple more. This one down here says, "I'm in so much pain that I'm struggling to cook or wash up. How can I be expected to perform witchcraft?" And let's do one more. This one up here says, "I'm struggling with self-sabotage and procrastination. How can I get moving again?" So yeah, these are just, some of the questions you can expect from the chapters here in part 3. And there are no tarot spreads in this part 3, but you still get the write it and speak it pages. I feel incredibly grateful to Kelly-Ann for all that she's shared, whether that's through this book here or on the other platforms over the years, and for making this book happen through those extremely tough times. To me, this book feels like it comes from genuine intentions, and that is to give some help or some form of relief to anyone reading it. I think this book's got something for everyone, especially given how the world has seemingly turned towards this chaotic direction over the years. I think there is an increasing number of people who struggle with various types and degrees of darkness. This book feels like a little beacon of light. I think it's a precious and valuable toolkit for any witch or spiritual practitioner out there, whether you're currently going through times of darkness of your own, or whether you just simply want to learn and understand more about witchcraft in general. I do think that this book is an incredible resource. For anyone out there who's going through a dark period of time right now, I just want to say, please be gentle with yourself. Remember to seek professional help or organizations that might be able to help you with your situation, if it's something you might need. Something that's kept me going through my own dark times is the phrase, change is the only constant in life. Whether that change is from the external environment, or perhaps that change comes from within yourself. So I sincerely wish for you strength and light for those of you out there in the darkness. It's okay and perfectly fine to take things one day at a time. So with that being said, I think I'll end the video here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.